With Chapter 4 of Boruto Two Blue Vortex releasing, we were introduced to 4 brand new characters. The Ten Tails has become the main threat of the start of the time skip, with Boruto telling Code to scrap his army, or else it will be the worst possible future for everyone. Unfortunately, Boruto's warnings were too late, as Code didn't stop the Ten Tails, which have evolved into Shinju that have self-awareness, such as having the ability to think and speak. In today's video, I do want to discuss the future of Boruto Two Blue Vortex, as the current direction of the series has completely changed, with the Ten Tails evolving and becoming the main villains moving forward. The enemies that have been introduced into Two Blue Vortex have changed rapidly on who they are. In Naruto, the enemies were mostly ninja from other villages that ultimately led to Kaguya becoming one of the final villains of the series. Boruto has fully expanded into the Otsutsuki, with Momoshiki and Kinshiki making an appearance during the Boruto movie. And following more Otsutsuki being introduced into the series, the Kara organization was introduced that had access to Otsutsuki level powers. However, the Kara members themselves weren't Otsutsukis, but they were cyborgs modified with crazy power. This includes the likes of Code, Kashinkoji, Delta, Boro, and Kawaki, who have all had their bodies experimented with cybernetic powers, moving from ninjas, Otsutsuki, cyborgs, and now finally the divine trees, who have evolved into beings capable of self-awareness. The Boruto series has constantly been evolving its enemy types as the plot keeps moving forward. This has always been consistent with the Naruto series. As more time passes, with Naruto and Boruto getting stronger over time, there has been more enemies that have been introduced that become drastically stronger to overcome. The scale of power from these enemies keep on rising as more threats are established in the story, to the point where it makes you wonder just how strong Boruto and Kawaki will become. Boruto at this point is one of the strongest characters in the series post time skip, with him flexing crazy abilities such as the flying Raijinjutsu and Rasengan Uzehiko, but he hasn't displayed his full power yet with this karma, and with the fact that there are 4 brand new enemies that Boruto himself cannot take down on his own, the power of the main enemies has once again rose. The difference between Boruto at the end of part 1 and into Two Blue Vortex is massive, as not only has Boruto embraced being a shinobi more, but his base power is on a whole nother level compared to even the top powerhouses such as Ishiki and Baryon mode Naruto. It's insane to think that this is only the start of the time skip, since Boruto has displayed this much power, such as having the ability to make the earth tremble, but also worry about the Ten Tails itself, which have evolved into new enemy types. These Shinju, at least from what we have seen, have the power to take and use the abilities of the people that they consume. Case in point, the Shinju having the ability to use Chidori against Boruto and trade blows with them, to where Boruto is asking Code to help him out and eventually teleports away from danger. The most interesting part about these Shinju is that they have a deep desire to expand their knowledge, instead of relying on their instinctual drive to bite an Otsutsuki to harvest a chakra fruit. And as seen in the first few chapters of the time skip, the Ten Tails have been trying to bite at anyone in front of them in hopes they bite an Otsutsuki, but now that they have evolved, these divine trees are completely different. First, they have completely taken Code's claw mark ability, with having the ability to teleport anywhere that has a claw mark. The Shinju are going to be damn near untouchable in battle if you don't have the speed to keep up with them. And seeing how Boruto can just about keep up with all of the Shinju at once, I think it's safe to say that most of the characters in the series right now will not be able to stop these Shinju. Now, there are exceptions such as Sarada, Kawaki, Mitsuki of course, but with the fact that characters are being turned into trees where their powers and abilities are being taken away and used by the Shinju, the 4 big Shinju enemies introduced will only get more powerful over time now that they have self-awareness. I really want to highlight this, considering that most of the villains in Boruto, while incredibly powerful, can sometimes lack the intelligence to think for themselves. This includes Kara and some of the Otsutsukis that have been introduced that are overly reliant on their innate powers and abilities and don't try to find ways to overcome their deficiencies. A perfect example of this would be Ishiki, as even though at the time he was the strongest villain that was beating down Naruto and Sasuke and just about everyone else, he looked down on his enemies and called them inferior creatures, since everyone wasn't on the same level as him. And this was Ishiki's downfall. Despite being stronger than everyone, he was still taken down by the efforts of Naruto, Sasuke, Boruto, and Kawaki, who all worked work together using shinobi tactics to ultimately kill Ishiki. This also applies to Momoshiki when he first was introduced into the story. He too was calling everyone inferior creatures and downplaying the power of ninjutsu since he was able to eat chakra pills which would bolster his overall power. And when he got put into a corner, he absorbed Kinshiki, and that still wasn't enough to stop Naruto, Sasuke, and Boruto. Every time a villain has been introduced into Boruto, they have been taken down or beaten by the heroes of this story by using ninjutsu, which the story has established as an inferior version of Shinjutsu that all Otsutsukis have access to, such as Karma for example. And despite being weaker than most of their opponents, the Leaf Village have always found ways to overcome these deficits by relying on what makes them ninja, and that's ninjutsu of course. It's pretty apparent this way considering that Boruto so far in the time skip is only using abilities that he has trained for and not the Karma seal itself. Even when Naruto and Sasuke were still present in the story, they didn't rely on using crutches of power such as scientific ninja tools and not even trying to gain a Karma seal despite the fact that they would become stronger overall, but their own power that they trained for. Even with Kawaki, who despite having these extra advantages relies on using ninjutsu such as fireball jutsu and shadow clones to deliver the killing blow on Ishiki. What I'm trying to say here is that despite introducing more powerful abilities, the main characters have fully embraced ninjutsu and not to alternative sources of power. The only exception now is Kawaki, since he has developed a hatred for shinobis since according to him only causes more death for their loved ones. And despite being so powerful, the Shinju have the ability of self-awareness is truly the most dangerous part about these new enemies, simply because they can learn ninjutsu. And with already having the power to take other abilities by turning their opponents into trees such as with Sasuke, not only do they get more powerful overall, but they will learn the techniques of these other characters. Sasuke being turned into a Shinju is already a massive problem considering that he is not only one of the smartest characters in the entire Naruto series, but he's also one of the strongest. And while he has been nerfed from losing his Rinnegan, this version of Sasuke has one, and also has an extra arm that many of us have been asking Sasuke to get. Now this doesn't automatically mean that he's stronger than Rinnegan Sasuke who was present in part 1, but this Shinju type is still ridiculously powerful that forced Boruto to flee from battle. So that's telling us something about these new characters. If they manage to learn more about the use of ninjutsu and the power that they already have, these characters are only going to get stronger, especially if they attack other villages and turn their Kage into divine trees, such as Gaara for example. And even though the Ten Tails initially wasn't shown to be that strong, as Boruto was seen striking them down with ease, they can catch anyone if they aren't aware of themselves, as shown in the first chapter of Two Blue Vortex. Of course, turning random fodder ninjas into trees won't change much about the Shinju, but they already got Sasuke and most likely will get more powerful enemies, especially as they're going to hunt down Boruto. And this can lead to many things, such as the Shinju heading into the Leaf Village to destroy Konoha and take more lives to become more powerful, and possibly to learn about the history of ninjutsu since the Leaf Village has a massive lore behind them. And no, I don't think the Shinju will head to the Konoha library to learn about the past, but rather continue to consume shinobi to learn about chakra and the use of ninjutsu. The fact that these enemies are using the abilities of a shinobi shows you that the enemy types have come full circle. A very big misconception about the series is that Boruto is no longer about ninjas anymore. And while this could be the case, especially about the enemies who aren't ninjas themselves, the main characters still rely on using ninjutsu and focus on teaching the next generation about shinobi. It's the reason why Boruto relies on ninjutsu to fight these insane enemies in the time skip and the value of what a shinobi is, such as Sarada wanting to become Hokage and Naruto teaching Kawakis the ways of a ninja. And even when preparing to fight enemies such as Koden Jigen, Boruto relied on training his ninjutsu and refining his overall techniques to become stronger, which is clearly apparent in the time skip. So far, the enemies in Boruto have relied on Otsutsuki like powers such as Shinjutsu and modified powers such as scientific ninja tools to fight against the main characters in the series. However, this is completely different now. The Shinju don't have these advantages. While they are physically dominant, they are shown to use ninjutsu of other characters such as Sasuke's Chidori and Moegi's Earth style jutsu. And taking Sasuke's bag of abilities is dangerous enough, as most characters in the series don't have an answer to an ability like Amaterasu or Kirin. And while the Shinju can learn more jutsu, a character that also has been learning is Momoshiki himself. After getting killed by Boruto in the first arc, Momoshiki has started to play it more safely after becoming Boruto's vessel. And while still maintaining that cocky attitude toward non-Otsutsukis, Momoshiki has started to rely on ninjutsu every time he has taken control over Boruto's body. And when he first awakened awakened through Boruto against Boro, Momoshiki used the Rasengan for the first time. The second time, Momo started to fight more tactically with the use of kunai, shuriken, and also with Boruto's vanishing Rasengan. And the third time around, Momoshiki created a new Rasengan with the Rasendan, while using more of Boruto's arsenal. Despite looking at these characters as inferior creatures, Momoshiki has ironically embraced using ninjutsu to cause as much destruction as possible. And if Boruto ever loses consciousness again, Momoshiki will have access to Flying Raijin and Rasengan Uzuhiko, which would be devastating for everyone involved. It's funny to think about, as the enemies of Boruto started out downplaying ninjutsu and relying on other sources of power, such as technology and Shinjutsu. But every time they were used, ninjutsu was still relied on by the main characters, which resulted in saving the village and keeping everyone else alive. Now it's a completely different game. The villains of this story have done a complete 180 in terms of strength, solely relying on ninjutsu to fight, and most likely will learn brand new techniques that haven't seen before. And let's not forget that Shinju have knowledge of the planet, of the present, and all of the past, which could be used to form a chakra fruit. And while this is the case when it comes to devouring someone like an Otsutsuki, their thirst for knowledge will only create more problems for Boruto and the rest of the cast. Depending on what the Leaf Village will do will change the outcome of this battle between Boruto and the Shinju, as Sarada was seen in the last chapter pleading for Boruto's case and telling Shikamaru that the village should consider helping Boruto in taking Code down. Sarada understands that Boruto knows something about the Ten Tails, which would be beneficial for both parties involved. However, Kawaki could stop everything, since his only goal right now is to kill Boruto. And most likely that will be the demise of the village, since Boruto tells Kawaki, "I didn't think you went this far," in the first page of the manga. Kawaki most likely will have a change in mind of killing Boruto and maybe wants to do it later, since he replies to Boruto by saying that he will send him to where he sent Naruto, where we know that Naruto has been sealed away by Kawaki in the Daikukonin dimension. I think it's cool that we're getting villains that are willing to change from their original goal. As with the Otsutsukis, they all just want to evolve their genetics by consuming chakra fruits, whereas with the Shinjus, their desire for knowledge will allow them to become more intelligent as characters, and maybe embrace shinobis, unlike how Momoshiki and Ishiki have in the past, as they have often looked down on them. This is going to be very interesting, as Boruto clearly doesn't have the power to fight all of them on his own, as he's going to need the help of the Leaf Village, Kashin Koji, and maybe even Code if he ever decides to actually help Boruto out. But that may not be the case. So let me know what are your thoughts on this video in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Shinju having self-awareness now that they have become the main threat in Two Blue Vortex? Do you think they will continue to use ninjutsu and learn more techniques, or will stay like the Otsutsuki and rely on stronger powers like Shinjutsu, for example? Let me know what you think about all of that in the comment section below. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell as well, and have a good day. Peace.